Welcome to the More Than Anxiety podcast. I'm Megan DeVito, and I'm the life coach for stressed out and anxious women who want more out of life. I'm here to help you create a life you love to live where anxiety isn't holding you back. Get ready for a lighthearted approach to managing anxiety through actionable steps, a lot of truth talk, and inspiration to take action so you walk away feeling confident, calm, and ready to live. Let's get to it. Welcome back to the More Than Anxiety podcast. You guys, this is episode 52. And I looked and the timeline doesn't totally match up because it looks like my first official episode was last year on September 22nd, but 52 weeks is a year. So happy birthday to this podcast. And I hope you guys have had a great time listening and that you're really getting a lot out of this. And I've had so much fun this year creating this for you and just being able to come up with new topics and really to be able to help you guys be less anxious and less stressed and start figuring out what's going on inside of your brain and inside of your body so that you can feel better. So if we have not met, I'm Megan. I am your life coach to help you knock out anxiety and stress so that you can love your life. And today we're jumping into a topic that not only affects my clients, but me too, and probably you too. Let's talk about why our brains sometimes play tricks on us and hold us back from taking action so that we can actually have the things that we want. So you might see this when you're trying to start doing something new, like starting a new project at work or finding time to work out. And you might also see this when you're trying to stop doing things. So for example, not checking your work email at home anymore, or not drinking to help you feel less stressed out. You want to do something or you don't want to do these things, but habits are sticky and your brain loves them. So let's go head first into this topic. Let's start by talking about your comfort zone. There are a lot of you out there listening right now that have bought into this fantastic lie that you should be comfortable at all times. And when you're not comfortable, it means something is wrong. And this is utter nonsense. I am challenging you right now to stop telling yourself this. There will always be times in your life when you feel like things just don't feel good. And the most powerful and loving thing that you can do for yourself and for the people around you is to get used to being outside of your comfort zone. Since this podcast is about anxiety and about leaving that comfort zone, it's definitely going to make you feel anxious. And let's talk about why. The comfort zone is called the comfort zone for a reason, isn't it? You are there because it's comfortable. It's familiar and easy, and you really don't have to think too much. You just get to hang out. You're just floating around like a jellyfish with nothing to worry about and no thought and no direction. The comfort zone feels really good, and from time to time, it is the perfect place to be. We could always use your comfort zone as a place to hunker down. Maybe you're overwhelmed or you're grieving or when other things are happening in your life and you need that space to breathe and to feel safe and connected. And there's always an and. You don't want to hang out there because it's a trap. Because while you're in that place and everything feels easy and familiar, you might even be working in this place and getting a lot done, but you're not doing anything new. So yeah, go to that comfortable place when you're folding laundry or when you're dealing with your day-to-day routines. Those tasks that we all have to do that you can do with your eyes closed, but not when you're trying to make changes. To make changes in how you feel or to do new things, you absolutely have to be uncomfortable. And your brain is going to do everything that it possibly can to stop you. This is your red flag. Expect your brain to start coming up with all of the reasons why you shouldn't say what you need to say, or why you should definitely not do the things that make you feel anxious, or why you're not good enough for the promotion, or how awful you'll do at a new job. This is just because you are doing something that feels scary, and your brain's job is to keep you from doing new things. New is unfamiliar, which means there might be big, dangerous, or deadly things involved. And when you let your brain start talking, those big, dangerous things tend to fall into a few different fear categories. Let's start with the fear of failure, because that's such a big one for so many people. The fear of failing, whatever that looks like for you, is a great starting point for this episode and for your brain. And here's why. If your brain can convince you that you'll fail right away, you'll never even take the first step to try anything new. You won't get very far into that danger zone if you're pretty sure you're going to fail, because why would you start something that isn't going to work anyway? Most of the times you won't, and you've lived to survive another day, because that's how dramatic your brain can be. But remember that since you're listening to this at a time where you might feel calm, you're not in the moment of anxiety and stress. You might know that the fear that you have is ridiculous, and I hear this all the time. I know it's not true, and I know it's ridiculous, but... And then there's like this ... afterwards. You can rationally know something isn't true and still believe it when you feel anxious. This is exactly how anxiety works. It makes you feel like something is true when it isn't. So getting back to that fear of failure, why is failing so scary? It's not actually the achievement most of the time that keeps you from starting. We understand that the thing we want may or may not happen. It's the feelings you have or that you start to feel if you think that you failed. You're not afraid to fail. You're afraid of the unknown and to have that feeling. So feelings like disappointment or regret, maybe sadness or shame or embarrassment or worthlessness, those are the things that are stopping you. And if you don't deal with what you think about your plan or your goal or what you think about yourself, this is why you quit before you ever start, or you quit not very long after you start. This is where coaching is super powerful. So let's say you have this incredible idea that is exactly what you want to work on in your career. It's exciting, it's fun, you have these really great ideas flowing, and you're just daydreaming, and you get so pumped up about it. You even feel good enough about it to share your idea with somebody else, and they love it too because it's a really great idea. And then your brain steps in, and suddenly you're questioning whether it'll really work, or what will your boss say, or whether or not it's even something that you wanted to do to begin with, or the person who told you was just being nice. All of these thoughts can feel really true, and you'll know this is the case when you feel the anxiety in your body. This is something that I help people learn. You feel anxious so that you stop the project. You start to tell yourself it was a stupid idea and that nobody else will like it. All of these thoughts keep you from presenting your amazing idea, not because the idea is awful, but because you're afraid of failing. Another way that you might sabotage yourself is by listening to that really nasty inner voice that you have. That voice is called your superego. And this sounds like such a generous term to me. Like superego sounds powerful and like you could stop a train with your own strength. And with a name like superego, you should be able to be super. Part of that is true though, right? It is super powerful. Your superego can be harsh, and it can be that inner voice that is critical. It's that part of you that helps you feel good for fitting in. It's your moral code. And there are these standards that society has set, or maybe standards that we've learned from our parents. And this nasty little voice tells you how to fit in so that you can fly under the radar. And it's also that same part of you that has this strict code or that's judgmental. It's just that you're judging yourself this time. So these thoughts, that voice that tells you that you're not smart or creative enough to go after that next level in your career, that voice that tells you that you're too much or that you're not enough, it's just there to keep you from being hurt. Yes, in the meanest way. But again, it's only your brain doing what it's supposed to do, and that's to keep you from changing or from doing things that feel unfamiliar or scary or different, because it is very dramatic and it just thinks you're going to die. Or if you don't die right away, that it won't be long before you do. The next thing that can keep you sabotaging yourself is this need for instant gratification versus waiting for some sort of long-term gain. Guys, we are in the thick of it with instant gratification. And everything that we want right now feels like it just drops into our laps. Not everything, but if you think about this, we send information back and forth from outer space in seconds, and we're just like, God, why is it taking so long for this video to load? Oh my God, we just sent information to the moon or something. We want it now. We have Amazon showing up at our house on Sundays, sometimes twice a day, bringing the packages that we just ordered 12 hours ago. We don't wait for things. So our brain is super happy. It's getting a dopamine hit all the time. It's here. We're getting notifications. We're getting packages. We're getting information from, that we've pinged off a satellite orbiting the Earth. And I feel like a broken record sometimes, but again, these ways of thinking go back to survival and staying alive. And this is also true for wanting things now, is about instant gratification. This has always been the case, but I really think that it's gotten so much bigger in the past, especially since the invention of cell phones and especially iPhones, or if you're an Android user. We just expect things to happen instantly. And we have all of these inventions that make it faster and help us stay, we can pre-prepare our frozen dinners. So our patience is super thin anyway. And we're a little bit, or maybe a lot of it, entitled at this point. And we figured out how to have most things in an instant. So when we have to wait for what we want, like the goal that we're trying to achieve, or like that feeling of success, we're annoyed. And we're frustrated. And the sooner we get something, the sooner we get that little hit of dopamine that we want. It feels so good. And we're programmed for it. And we want it right now. So when you have to choose to wait for big goals that aren't right there and that aren't happening in the moment, it takes impulse control and patience and goals that you're committed to. It means being uncomfortable and having constraint and doing it for longer than a few seconds. It takes patience and it takes practice. And I've been really working on this in 2023. I think I mentioned this in a past episode, but from January to July, I was involved in a mastermind that was equal parts amazing and awful. I was so stressed out and so overwhelmed and frustrated. And I learned so much about who I am and how to have constraint and how to believe in myself. You guys, I got coached every week, sometimes 3-4 times a week, hard. And sometimes it felt like I was being punched in the gut and I was like, give me more. It sucked. I mean, I cried. I felt frustrated and hopeless. I was in this place of creative purgatory for so long. But the idea behind this growth that I wanted for myself was so simple and so incredibly hard at the same time. So the question and the challenges that the other coaches were giving me changed how I felt about myself and what I think. That is what coaching does. Of course, it shows you where you're not thinking in line with what you want or with what you say or what you believe. But in the meantime, it opens up growth that you didn't even know you needed or wanted. I had to commit to these long-term goals because let me tell you, I always had the opportunity to quit and to not do the work. And there were days where I literally wanted to throw my computer against the wall and quit learning about how I could be a better coach and how I could grow my business. But what I wanted more was to be a better coach and to grow my business. And I stuck it out and oh my God, it was freaking hard. I'm still in it. I'm still kind of going through it and doing it on my own again and getting coaching in groups because yes, guys, coaches have coaches. Coaches know the value of coaching. So we have coaches. It's not just people who don't. So another way you might be sabotaging yourself, I'm just moving on from my own horror story now, is by overthinking and overanalyzing. And if I could ask y'all to raise your hands if you're an overthinker, my guess is that a lot of you have just thrown your hands straight into the air. So how often have you thought your way out of something that you really wanted or needed? This could be something as simple as a new pair of shoes or a big promotion at work. I'm not saying that making an informed decision is bad. Please educate yourselves. And when you know what you want and what is best for you, do not make your decision based on thoughts alone, especially when it comes to making changes. Your brain will come up with every reason why something won't work for you, why it's bad, why you'll fail, why you don't have enough money or enough time, why you'll be embarrassed, or why you'll end up broke. All the things. Your brain and my brain too. You think you need to think about a decision when you already know what you want, or you think you need to ask for somebody else's opinion or somebody else's permission or their thoughts when you kind of secretly hope that they'll say yes and agree with you, or you want them to say no and get you off the hook. That was a big one for me. It's okay, and I do it too, but I just want you to be aware what's going on when you think you need to think about something longer, or you need to have someone else help you think about it more. Remember that people who love you will also tell you all the reasons that they think quitting your job or putting yourself out there or even getting coaching will be your biggest mistake ever. And they will tell you to keep you safe and to keep you in the little box that they already see you in. They don't want you to be broke. They don't want you to be hurt. They don't want you to be uncomfortable. And they certainly don't want you to change, because change to them is still scary. So then they're in on the change, like the change drama. It's okay to think, but there has to be a constraint around that. Yes, think and choose. And choose what you know based on facts, not on fears. I can help you with this too. This is coaching as well. So what are you going to do when you have a big goal or a big want, but you keep sabotaging yourself? I'm so glad you asked. The first thing you're going to do is get on a call with me and talk to me about what's going on. Tell me what you want, like what you really, really want, and what you've been trying. What's helping you or what's not helping you? What do you think needs to happen instead? This is a consultation call, and these calls are free. They're going to help you see what's working and see what isn't working right now for you, and then find other parts of your life where you might also have some anxiety or some sabotage sneaking in. And we'll come up with a picture of what you'd like to see happen in your life or in your career so that you can see the big picture. And that's going to help you with the short-term versus that long-term gratification. Here's what happens when you decide to make changes. Your brain is always growing. It's always changing. You're just learning how to override the system. So you have this incredible process that happens all the time called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is just your brain learning new things. And in order for that to happen, you have to show it where you want it to go. And you have to do that by looking at what you're thinking. Now, the problem here is we think a lot of things on habit, and we just assume what we think is true, and we don't necessarily take the time or have that outside viewpoint to our own thoughts. This is where I help you. Coaching says, here's a question I have about something that you want. And we have a conversation about what's going on, and I might ask you why a lot, or tell me more about that. And I listen to what you're saying. Because a lot of times, subconsciously, you have things that you think that you don't necessarily see. We don't see our own thoughts very well. And I'll say, well, I just heard you say blah, blah, blah. You said this thing. And when I repeat that back to you, what does that mean? And if you're just taking that as the truth, I'm going to question you. Okay, what does that mean for you? How do you know that's true? What if it's not true? What would you like to see happen? What would you be if that wasn't your belief? And I start questioning you so that you can start growing these new thoughts. So we take a thought and then we create an action step around it. Okay, what do we have to do so that we can act on this? And as you do that, as your brain starts seeing that that thought is actually safe, it does it more easily, and it just gets easier and easier. And this is how you change your brain. You do it all the time without thinking about it. Little kids do this when they do things like, I don't eat green things. They don't eat green things. And then maybe they start with something silly, like a green sucker. And they eat the green sucker, and you say, hey, I thought you didn't eat green things. And they say, well, I like green suckers. Okay. Well, then maybe they eat a kiwi. And they're like, oh, well, I like this green thing, but I don't like those green things. And maybe one day they eat peas or they eat something else. And eventually they get to the point where they've lost their green story and they eat things like broccoli. And yes, I know that's a giant leap, but it doesn't happen overnight. But little kids change their minds all the time on things. And you do it too, right? You think that you didn't like a certain song, but before you know, on the radio, you've heard it enough times and your brain's adapted that, oh, wait, I kind of do like it. And sometimes maybe even becomes your favorite song. You're just changing what you think. These are simple little ways that neuroplasticity works, but it's the same idea. We just develop this mindset of action to get you towards your goal so that you stop sabotaging yourself. Tell me what you think about failing. Tell me what you think about needing it now. Tell me what you think other people think of you. And we just untie those knots inside your brain. We've all got them. I'm not pointing fingers at you specifically. My fingers are all pointing right back at me too. As we do this, we let go of the need to be perfect because perfect is just an illusion. I hear it all the time. I don't know that I can get this exactly right, and it just won't be like I want it to be perfect. Well, tell me what that means, because I am positive that my perfect and your perfect aren't the same. Who are you being perfect for? And we just use this idea of imperfection being the very best next step. Let's not do it perfectly. Let's do it messy. Let's just do anything to get you past this sabotage point, and then let's see how it goes. Because imperfection is what moves you forward. If you're waiting for perfection, you'll sabotage yourself. It's just another way you sabotage. We let go of that need to be perfect, and we lean into the idea of messy, amazing growth. I can help you with this. This has been a fun podcast for me to record, and it's not a very long one, but that's okay. And I want to say thank you for checking out this episode today. And I want you to remember that you can always schedule time to talk with me by going to the show notes or by going to my website. It's megandevito.com/work with me. And I will help you find how self-sabotage is showing up for you and what you need to do instead to have what you want. If you found this episode helpful, could you just share it with a friend? Maybe you can push the little arrow and share it through Messenger. You could post it on Facebook. You could post it on Instagram or X or Reels or wherever the heck you are. Share it with somebody who could use this information and a boost to help them feel less anxious too. Thank you so much for listening. And if I don't talk to you before our call, I'll be back next week. Take care. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the More Than Anxiety podcast. Be sure to subscribe and leave a review so others can easily find this resource as well. And of course, if you're ready to feel more relaxed, have more energy, more confidence, and a lot more fun, go to megandevito.com/work with me or just to the show notes to talk to me more about coaching. See you soon.